I really appreciate Steve sharing a little bit about my family. My name is Nate Clark. I'm the Vice President of the John Deere Foundation and Manager of Enterprise Citizenship for John Deere. And it's my extraordinary pleasure and privilege to share with you today a little bit about how we at John Deere, how we approach solving world hunger. And as the title of my presentation suggests, we believe that honoring history or being sensitive to history is critical to our work and critical to solving world hunger. Now, I would be remiss, like many of our presenters, if I did not thank Deirdre White and the entire CDS team for not only the lovely opportunity to present to you today, but also for the terrific support that they provide us as part of our ongoing citizenship efforts. I would also be remiss if I didn't stress at the outset that when I go through my presentation today, you will see embodied in it the work and spirit of my colleagues whom I'm happy to represent in giving the presentation today. Colleagues like Deb Worth and Tom Christensen, who are both here today, as well as my colleagues Mara Sovey, Jeff Anderson, Arun Pandey, Sri Spika, Cheryl Ashcraft. The list goes on and on. Also, when I go through this presentation today, I'm going to show you some cool, what I think are cool historical images from John Deere's past, compliments of the John Deere archive. So I hope that you enjoy some of the things that I show you. So to start the presentation, I want to make sure that we have a common understanding of both the challenges and opportunities facing us in solving world hunger. First, in terms of the challenges, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, 868 million people are chronically undernourished. That's a statistic I didn't know before joining the citizenship team, and it's a striking one. To build on that, 852 million of these people live in the developing world. Taking these two statistics alone, they demand that whenever we have a discussion of solving world hunger, that we focus much of our discussion on developing countries. Let's turn to the opportunities we see in the developing countries themselves to help solve world hunger. Now, according to FAO, specifically 2.5 billion people live in the developing world, and these folks make their living in agriculture. And 1.5 billion of these folks live on what are known as smallholder farms, or are part of smallholder farm households. And while the definition and reality of what smallholder farms may vary from country to country, they're typically characterized by a few things. One, as the name suggests, they're small. They're typically much less than 10 hectares in size, maybe only an acre or two. In addition, they're dominated by a family labor and a family food sustenance motivation. Lastly, these are poor households, which we can see from the high incidence of poverty for those engaged in agriculture in developing countries. Taking all of this together, these statistics about the challenges and opportunities suggest to us that if we can improve agricultural productivity for smallholder farmers in developing countries, we may have a key to helping solve world hunger. FAO agrees with this and even takes it further. Let me quote something from FAO. FAO states, agriculture lies at the heart of the development process. And smallholders, I hear crickets, maybe this is close to agriculture here, it's okay. I have to call you out though. It's a social faux pas. It's okay. Well, it's okay. I was thinking about this room a little bit. It's really appropriate that we're in this room talking about big solutions for big problems. All of the references to explorers. It feels a little Game of Thronesy to me. But I'm telling you a little bit too much about myself. So FAO says that agriculture lies at the heart of the development process, and smallholders are often seen as the driving force for economic growth, poverty reduction, and food security. That's a really powerful statement from FAO. It's one that we share certainly at the John Deere Foundation at Deere. But when I think of that, there was another statement a statement made by Dr. Norman Borlaug, the 1970 recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize for his monumental achievements in helping alleviate world hunger and the misery it creates. Dr. Borlaug states, I want to share this with you. Almost certainly, the first essential component, it's really powerful, first essential component to social justice is adequate food for all mankind. What a powerful statement. We at John Deere often think of Dr. Borlaug whenever we have discussions of solutions for world hunger, not only because of his monumental achievements, but because we at the Foundation are proud supporters of the World Food Prize, which helps to sustain Dr. Borlaug's legacy. And on a personal note, my mom and her folks were raised in a town called Cresco, Iowa, a small town in northeast Iowa, the same hometown as Dr. Borlaug. So we're definitely proud Iowans for what Dr. Borlaug helped contribute for Iowa and also the world. So now we've set the stage, we've set the context, we've talked about the challenges and opportunities. Let me tell you about how we at the John Deere Foundation and John Deere approach solving world hunger. Now, growing up in Iowa, how many folks are from the Midwest? Oh yeah, that's a good show. That's very good. So folks from the Midwest often know a lot about John Deere and a bit about our history and our purpose. But most of you folks aren't from the Midwest. So let me share a little bit of our history with you. We are a 176-year-old business spanning from 1837, when John Deere fashioned his first polished steel plow in his blacksmith shop in Grand Detour, Illinois, to help pioneer farmers plow through what is really sticky Midwest soil. To today, when we have over 60,000 employees that design and manufacture, sell, and otherwise support a dizzying array of agricultural, construction, forestry, and turf equipment in more than 160 countries all over the world. And while a lot has certainly changed over the last 176 years, we think at least one thing has remained true, and we call that our higher purpose. Our higher purpose at John Deere is that we are committed to those linked to the land, and that purpose, as an extension, has as its outcome something very broad and we hope very powerful to improve the quality of life for people all over the world. How do we do that? We do that in part by appreciating history in its many forms. Shakespeare in Henry IV said there's a history in all men's lives. And maybe it's the perspective of a 176-year-old company that helps teach us this. But we know that our individual and collective histories, all of ours, have massive impacts on everything we do. It's not just our customers, it could be our employees, our suppliers, our partners, everyone. And that sensitivity to that history is essential for us to execute on our purpose and attain our aspirations. So when it comes to solving world hunger, there are three ways history is important. First, we know we must leverage our collective agricultural history, all of our collective agricultural history, to help solve world hunger. Two, we must honor individual agricultural histories. And three, we must take both of those things and generate a new shared agricultural history. And I'm going to touch upon each of these three things through my presentation today. So growing up in the Midwest, much of us, we see tons of agricultural innovations working in our field, like Deb's family farm. We see them in our junkyards, and we see them on our antique shops. We see them on American pickers. We see these innovations everywhere, and there are thousands upon thousands of such innovations. What you see here are 4 patent drawings from the late 19th century provided by the John Deere Archives, including front and center a patent drawing from 1867 for a wheel cultivator. For those of you who don't know, cultivation is the act of plowing through soil, largely to kill weeds. That's what we do. That's what that does. Since Deere filed its first patent in mid-1860s, we filed, by some estimates, over 23,000 patents worldwide. And what I hope that you can take from these humble drawings and some of these statistics is that there is a massive collective agricultural history that we can use today to support our Solutions for World Hunger initiatives. It can be engineering expertise in the form of technology. It can be other technical expertise in agronomics, ergonomics, safety. There is a body of wealth of information that we must all use and leverage, leveraging our collective agricultural history. One of the ways that we do it at John Deere is this picture. Fast forward from 1860s, the wheel cultivator in 1867, to the wheel cultivator being used and demonstrated here by a smallholder farmer in Rajasthan, India, as part of a program funded by the John Deere Foundation. Working with the Maharana Pratap University of Agriculture and Technology, along with other partners like United Way Worldwide and United Way Mumbai, we are pursuing a program to promote and identify technologies that can be used to reduce hardship and drudgery for smallholder farmers, women in rural India. Already through the program, we've distributed wheel cultivators, serrated sickles to cut fodder, ground nut decorticators to take the shells off of them, cotton picking machines, sprayers, other tools. And to give you a sense of the immediacy of the impact of leveraging technology that in this case is 150 years old, already the women who are using this can reduce their drudgery by 30% and their daily weeding labor by almost 50%. That's immediate impact that has personal, safety, work, economic impacts that we can employ today if we leverage our history a little bit better. Next, this picture taken in 1919 of this lone, solitary farmer seeding his field by hand really epitomizes for me the notion of honoring individual agricultural histories. And what do I mean by that? Well, if we were to fantasize a little bit about looking at this picture, if I were to ask you, how do you think this man learned how to farm? We can fantasize and probably get pretty close to the answer. He probably learned from his family, probably learned from his community, individualized that knowledge by his own practices in his own fields through trial and error. So he's got a unique place as a farmer. How many years do you think this man's been farming from the look of it? Right, decades, certainly. Probably his whole life, knowing a little bit about the history of farming in the U.S. What if I were now to ask you, how difficult would it be to train this man to farm differently, to use new technologies or new practices? Well, the answer to that depends, and it depends upon our willingness to honor his individual agricultural history. What does that mean? It means learning from him how he learned how to farm. And to understand what his expectations of a farmer are, and as a person, maybe a family member. It takes a sensitivity to his individual needs as a smallholder farmer. How do we do this? And it's a shame that Deirdre had to step out for a moment to go see her daughters play, but that is certainly a priority because she took this photo in near Udaipur, India, as part of the John Deere Foundation's work on what's called the Joint Initiative for Village Advancement. And this is one of my favorite pictures that I have seen during my time on the citizenship team. And this was taken during a focus group with smallholder women farmers to learn specifically about their individual agricultural histories. It was to ask them how they farm, ask them what they need, to ask them what their visions were, ask them what their aspirations are, not only in terms of agriculture, but overall development. This picture really captures the emotion of that. Now, when I think about community needs assessments and micro-planning, I think that those are ripe areas for corporate volunteerism. Why is that? Because I think this was referred to in Chris's presentation and Sue's presentation as well. I know from a business perspective, one of the ways that we assure our success as a company is by maintaining a fundamental commitment to meet customer expectations in every single one of our transactions. Right? Most of the corporations and most of the businesses, everyone in the room, when they're a part of a business, they share that same commitment. You're going to meet your customers' expectations. You can translate that commitment beautifully to your development work. Because fundamentally, you need that same commitment to the beneficiaries of your CSR activities, your citizenship activities. And so I really think that as Sue said, even though you go, you think you're leaving your day job and doing something different, you really can take a lot of the same skills and translate them nicely. So I've already talked about leveraging collective agricultural history and honoring individual agricultural histories. Lastly, I want to talk about this notion of creating a shared agricultural history. What do I mean by that? It's pretty simple. It means teaching and learning from farmers in the field. Now, what you see here are examples of training materials that Deere provided its customers in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. I'm particularly fond of the Science and Art of Plowing. What a cool relic, what a cool old title. But for us, training, this notion of creating a new shared agricultural history is more than just distributing materials. Again, I cannot stress enough, it is vital to get into the field and actually teach and learn from the beneficiaries of your activities. This is particularly important when you go into new countries that face literacy and language barriers, but it's also the best way to teach and to learn. And to Chris's point, it's the best way to fall in love with these projects. It means that you can take a collective agricultural history in the form of a tool, for an example. You can leverage an individual's agricultural history, and then by complementing and catalyzing them both, you create something new and transformative and developmental. How do we do that? One example, let's see if that fast forwards, is through our micro-irrigation work in North Gujarat, India, through the John Deere Foundation and John Deere Water, working with the Viksat Sarabhai Center for Development Interactions, along with United Way Worldwide and United Way Mumbai. We are installing micro-irrigation systems for several smallholder farmer groups and complementing that technology with in-field training for the technology and agronomic training as well. And while this project is still in its infancy, we've already been able to install 3 micro-irrigation systems for 3 smallholder farmer groups. And from that, we've seen income increases between 100 and 326% for those farmers that have had microirrigation for a long time. And what does that do? It's not just the income. One of the stories I was told when I visited this project was one family now, all year round, for the first time they can remember, they can have access to vegetables to eat. That's food security and food diversity. They can also take those vegetables and sell those. I'll show you a picture of that in just a moment. There's also interesting developmental impacts that are really powerful, even though they're anecdotal. One woman farmer has so much income now that she wants to buy a freezer to actually store and sell ice cream and treats in her village. It's kind of entrepreneurial development from this work. And it's all made available and, because we spent the time to use a tool that we knew could work, to honor the individuals and their farms, and then create something new. So for many of you who go and work in India, you know that last year the monsoon was late. And when I had arrived just in advance of working with CDS and the CDS team on the JIVA project, the Joint Initiative for Village Advancement, I had the chance to go and visit some of these micro-irrigation projects. And despite drought conditions, this is what I found. I found a vegetable cart in the middle of the village where one of the smallholders was able to have access to and sell vegetables. For the first time, they were able to do that. For me, seeing an image like this really brings to life Dr. Borlaug's notion of adequacy of food as being an essential component of social justice and overall development. So let me end my remarks with a bit on corporate volunteerism, and I invite everyone to speak to my colleagues Deb Worth and Tom Christensen. They're truly the experts on volunteerism. I'm just the mouthpiece for now. But for us, we know that volunteerism is going to play an increasing role in all of our citizenship activities at John Deere. Why do we know this? We know this because our chairman and CEO, Sam Allen, he's making this his commitment. And he's making it his commitment throughout the entire organization to make volunteerism a cornerstone of all of our citizenship activities. And why is that? Because we know and we feel after our 176 years of history that it takes people, it takes volunteers to leverage our collective agricultural history. It takes our engineers, it takes our agronomists to actually be able to teach us about the available technologies so that we can use them. For Deere, it takes people. It takes our product development experts, our product marketing managers, to be able to teach us how to honor an individual's agricultural history so that we can meet her expectations, no matter where we're going for our citizenship. It takes people, it takes our after-sales support, it takes our training instructors to then get out in the field and help us find ways to create new shared agricultural histories. In the end, we know it takes people, and the more people that we throw at solving world hunger, we believe the sooner we will make it a permanent part of our past. So on behalf of John Deere and the John Deere Foundation, it is lovely to have the chance to learn from all of you and to share some of our information with you. And I hope to be able to meet you and work with you and get my passport stamped throughout the remainder of the presentation today. So thank you very much.